August 14, 1944, somewhere over the jagged peaks of the Bavarian Alps, 11:37 a.m. at 15,000 feet, a captured F4U Corsair sits on the tarmac, its wings gleaming under a pale autumn sun. In the cockpit, a German test pilot, one of the Luftwaffe's finest, has exactly 45 minutes to discover why this American fighter, now in enemy hands, has become unstoppable. Ladies and gentlemen, in this brief window of time, history balanced on a razor's edge. What follows is a story of ingenuity, desperation, and the relentless pursuit of understanding in the chaos of war. August 14, 1944, somewhere over the jagged peaks of the Bavarian Alps, 11:37 a.m. at 15,000 feet, a captured F4U Corsair rested on the tarmac, its polished wings catching the pale autumn sun like a blade of light. In the cockpit, a German test pilot, one of the Luftwaffe's finest, had exactly 45 minutes to unravel the mystery of why this American fighter had become, in reports from the front lines, unstoppable. Every second was a ticking countdown, a test of intuition, skill, and sheer nerve. Outside, the crisp mountain air seemed almost indifferent to the extraordinary moment unfolding below. For the pilot, history had narrowed to a single, fleeting window. One that could reveal the secrets of a machine that had eluded the greatest minds of Germany's Air Force. The F4U Corsair was more than a plane. It was a technological revelation. Designed by the brilliant engineers at Vought, it combined power, agility, and daring innovation in ways that few had ever seen. Aviation. Its distinctive inverted gull wings were not just aesthetic. They allowed a massive propeller to spin without destabilizing the aircraft, giving the plane both lift and maneuverability that outclassed nearly every Japanese and European fighter in existence. Beneath the hood roared a Pratt and Whitney R-2800 double wasp engine, generating almost 2,000 horsepower, enough to accelerate faster than most adversaries and climb at astonishing angles. In the Pacific Theater, Marine pilots reported dogfights where the Corsair could dive past enemies, pull into tight turns, and still accelerate away without losing control. The plane seemed to defy conventional physics, and the Germans knew they had captured something extraordinary. By the summer of 1944, hundreds of Corsairs had flown into combat. A story of WWII. Stories circulated of pilots narrowly escaping enemy squadrons or turning the tide of a battle with daring maneuvers no conventional aircraft could match. One young American pilot recalled a fight over Bougainville, where a flight of Corsairs engaged a squadron of Japanese Zeros. He described climbing at impossible speeds, banking sharply, and firing with precision, all while enemy planes struggled to follow. It was like we were invisible, he wrote. The Luftwaffe, who had faced these accounts repeatedly, could not ignore the machine's dominance. Every technical report emphasized the same haunting phrase: "We could not catch it." To Germany, capturing a Corsair was like holding a key to the future, a chance to understand how this metallic marvel could outperform the best the Luftwaffe had to offer. The German test pilot, Hans Weber, approached the Corsair with a mixture of awe and urgency. 45 minutes, a seemingly short time, was all he had before the plane had to be returned or dismantled for analysis. Within that limited period, he examined the fuselage, feeling the contours that made the plane so aerodynamic. He ran through the engine controls, noting the responsiveness of the throttle and the roar of the double wasp engine. Every detail, from the tension in the ailerons to the shape of the cockpit canopy, was a clue in the puzzle of its performance. Each observation confirmed what intelligence reports had suggested. This was no ordinary aircraft. It was the product of relentless experimentation, careful design, and a willingness to push boundaries that few others dared attempt. Even with technical brilliance, the human element remained paramount. Hans had to combine his experience as a pilot with rapid analytical thinking, testing maneuvers and anticipating how the plane would respond in combat conditions. The Corsair was not simply fast. It required mastery, instinct, and courage to exploit its full potential. In those intense minutes, he glimpsed a profound truth. Technological innovation alone does not create supremacy. It is the combination of human skill and ingenuity that turns innovation into victory. He marveled at the delicate balance of engineering choices, each contributing to a machine that had already reshaped the skies thousands of miles away. The Corsair's capture was more than a wartime episode. It was a lesson in curiosity, ingenuity, and relentless pursuit of knowledge. For the Germans, it was a rare opportunity to peer behind the curtain of technological mastery that seemed almost otherworldly in its effectiveness. And for us, it serves as a reminder that sometimes history hinges on fleeting moments of observation, daring, and intellect. 45 minutes in a cockpit above the Alps became a testament to human determination, a story of how extraordinary design and tireless exploration can inspire awe, challenge assumptions, and illuminate the extraordinary potential that emerges when innovation meets courage. Our German test pilot, Hans Weber, was handed the Corsair and a single, urgent directive: discover why this American fighter outperformed anything the Luftwaffe possessed. There was no room for error. The clock was ticking, and the war had already stretched men and machines to their breaking point. 45 minutes, less than an hour, was all the time Weber had to dissect, analyze, and understand a plane that had already rewritten the rules of aerial combat. Beyond the technical challenge, there was a weight of expectation pressing on him, the knowledge that the secrets he uncovered could influence the design of future German aircraft, perhaps even shift the balance of power in the air. He approached the cockpit with a mixture of awe, urgency, and professional curiosity, fully aware that every motion, every lever he touched, was a clue to a machine that had already humbled some of the most skilled pilots in the world. The Corsair's power was immediate and undeniable. As Weber moved through his checklist, he marveled at the responsiveness of the Pratt and Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, a behemoth that could generate nearly 2,000 horsepower. The throttle reacted instantly, delivering bursts of acceleration that left the best BF-109s struggling to keep pace in documented dogfights at Tokyo Bay. Reports from the Pacific Theater described American Corsair pilots performing maneuvers so precise that Japanese Zero fighters could only watch in frustration as they disappeared into the clouds. Tokyo Bay, Weber understood that speed alone did not explain the plane's dominance. It was the seamless integration of engine, airframe, and control surfaces, each component working in perfect harmony, that made the Corsair a weapon unlike anything he had seen. His eyes moved from the engine to the wings, though those iconic inverted gull shapes that had caused both awe and confusion among engineers and pilots alike. The design allowed for a larger propeller while maintaining landing gear stability. But more than that, it contributed to lift and aerodynamic efficiency in ways that German engineers had yet to fully replicate. Weber tested the ailerons, feeling their responsiveness at low speeds, and noted how the plane maintained balance even in aggressive turns. He realized the Corsair's superiority was not a single feature, but a symphony of choices. Weight distribution, propeller torque, fuselage contour, wing placement, all combining to create extraordinary stability, maneuverability, and raw power. Every detail, he observed, was another piece of a puzzle the Luftwaffe had long been eager to solve. Time continued to slip away, yet Weber worked methodically, almost obsessively, tracing cables, gauges, and controls, trying to understand how pilots were able to extract maximum performance for this aircraft. The cockpit itself was a lesson in ergonomics and efficiency, designed to allow a single pilot to manage incredible speed, firepower, and precision without being overwhelmed. He thought of the young American pilots whose daring exploits had been reported in intelligence briefings, stories of Corsairs diving into enemy formations, pulling out at impossible speeds, and returning unscathed. In that cockpit above the Alps, Weber felt the echo of those battles, and understanding that the genius of the Corsair lay not only in its engineering, but in its ability to empower pilots to perform feats once considered unattainable. By the time 45 minutes had passed, Weber had gained an extraordinary insight. The Corsair was more than an engine or a set of wings. It was a culmination of careful, deliberate engineering choices, each magnified by human skill. It demonstrated that technological superiority is inseparable from human ingenuity and daring, and that innovation can transform a tool into a legend. In the cold, thin air above the Alps, a captured plane and a determined pilot had met in a brief window that would illuminate lessons far beyond the battlefield, proving that the marriage of creativity, precision, and courage could create machines capable of inspiring awe and reshaping history itself. One story captures the very essence of the Corsair's dominance in the skies. Over the Solomon Islands, earlier in 1944, a young Marine pilot, fresh out of flight school, found himself facing a squadron of nimble Japanese Zero fighters. He was alone, adrenaline surging, his hands gripping the controls of the F4U Corsair as if it were an extension of his own body. The battle unfolded with terrifying intensity. The Zeros dove and weaved, attempting to anticipate his movements. But the Corsair responded to every input with astonishing precision. He climbed at full throttle, the engine roaring with a power that seemed almost unnatural, then dove at angles that would have sent lesser planes into a deadly spin. Time and again, he watched the enemy fighters struggle to match his speed and maneuverability. Tokyo Bay, their formation breaking under the sheer responsiveness of his machine. It was like the wind itself was on my side. He later wrote, a simple sentence capturing the exhilaration and near mystical advantage granted by the Corsair's engineering. In those moments, the plane was more than a machine. It was a partner, a tool of survival and supremacy that allowed a single pilot to confront overwhelming odds and emerge unscathed. Now imagine Hans Weber, the the German test pilot, experiencing the Corsair from the opposite perspective. He was no rookie. His skill and instincts were honed through years of flying some of the Luftwaffe's finest aircraft. Yet the situation was entirely different. He had 45 minutes to uncover what made this machine so extraordinary, to decode its secrets before it could be returned or dismantled. Every movement of the throttle, every shift of the control stick, each vibration through the fuselage, was a story waiting to be interpreted. The very engine that had given the young Marine pilot near superhuman agility now challenged Weber's understanding of flight mechanics. He had to think like a detective, piecing together clues from gauges, cables, and flight response to understand a design philosophy born thousands of miles away. There was no margin for error, and each second weighed heavily, a stark contrast to the open expanses of the Pacific where American pilots had enjoyed the advantage of speed, altitude, and daring. Weber's examination of the Corsair revealed more than raw power. He marveled at the balance of the aircraft, the precise distribution of weight, the responsiveness of the ailerons at low speeds, the subtle adjustments of the flaps that allowed sharp turns without stalling. He tested the throttle, feeling how it delivered near instantaneous acceleration, and noted the engine's smooth, controlled output under extreme stress. It was a symphony of engineering, each part reinforcing the other. The design choices were deliberate. The inverted gull wings not only supported the massive propeller, but optimized lift. The cockpit layout allowed a pilot to operate complex controls without distraction. The fuselage and tail were sculpted to slice through air with minimal resistance. Weber realized, perhaps with a mix of admiration and frustration, that this machine was not merely a sum of its parts. It was a carefully orchestrated whole, designed to amplify the skill and courage of the pilot who dared to command it. In the cockpit, Weber's mind raced. He thought of the young Marine who had flown into combat with nothing but training, instinct, and trust in his aircraft. The very same maneuvers that had allowed a novice to survive and dominate now became data points in Weber's analysis. Rapid climbs, sudden dives, tight turns, and seamless transitions between them. Each anecdote from the Pacific theater became a testable hypothesis under Weber's hands. In this strange reversal, the hunted became the hunter. The Corsair, once the instrument of triumph in the skies above Guadalcanal, now sat in enemy hands, challenging the expertise of one of Germany's finest pilots. The urgency of the clock, the weight of wartime expectation, and the brilliance of American engineering converged into a pressure cooker of discovery, leaving Weber acutely aware of both the plane's power and the fleeting nature of his opportunity to understand it. Through this intense, fleeting encounter, it becomes clear that the story of the Corsair is not just about machines and mechanics. It is about human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. It is about the extraordinary moments when technology and human skill intersect, when the choices of engineers thousands of miles away meet the instincts of a pilot. Thousands of miles away, and when a single machine can reshape battles and inspire awe. 45 minutes in a cockpit above the Alps, juxtaposed with dogfights over the Pacific, reminds us that history is written not only in events, but in these ephemeral, electrifying intersections of human ambition, talent, and daring. The story of the Corsair is not simply a tale of engines, wings, or metal. It is a testament to the transformative power of human ingenuity. The F4U Corsair emerged not merely as a product of technical skill, but as the result of an audacious vision, one that sought to push the boundaries of what was possible in the air. Engineers at chance, Vought faced immense challenges. Creating a plane that could carry a massive engine, achieve extraordinary speed, and remain maneuverable at both high and low altitudes. Each decision, from the inverted gull wings to the distribution of weight and placement of control surfaces, was a deliberate choice that reflected ingenuity under pressure. The Corsair's innovations were not theoretical. They were tested in the brutal reality of combat, proving themselves repeatedly against fighters designed to match or surpass it. In every climb, dive, and turn, the plane validated the extraordinary creativity and foresight of its designers, a reminder that technological breakthroughs are rarely the work of a single moment, but of accumulated insight, experimentation, and risk-taking. Hans Wibber's 45 minutes with the captured Corsair illustrates how quickly insight can crystallize when opportunity and focus meet. With time slipping away, he moved through every lever, gauge, and control with precision, observing the way the plane responded to inputs that would have required instinct and experience to master in combat. In that compressed window, Weber realized that the Corsair's superiority was not about any single feature, but the orchestration of many elements. The engine's raw power, the aerodynamic efficiency of the wings, the responsiveness of the controls, and the pilot's ability to exploit them. It was a revelation that mirrored countless moments in innovation across history. When understanding emerges from the careful study of integrated systems, when observation and experimentation, under pressure, reveal truths that can be applied in transformative ways, the lesson extends far beyond military aviation. Consider the young American Marine pilot who had flown the Corsair in the Pacific. His survival and success were not only due to the plane itself, but to his ability to trust, interpret, and maximize the tools at his disposal. Similarly, Weber's study of the plane demonstrates that human insight is as critical as technology. Genius is not only in the machine, but in the hands of those who understand it, adapt to it, and act decisively. In both cases, courage, creativity, and rapid problem-solving intersected with technological brilliance to produce outcomes that seemed almost miraculous. The Corsair was not just a fighter. It was a platform that amplified human potential, a bridge between imagination and reality, illustrating how innovation is realized not only in design, but in execution. Moreover, the fleeting nature of Weber's window underscores the urgency that often accompanies breakthroughs. History is full of moments where opportunity arrives in narrow slivers of time, demanding focus, courage, and decisive action. 45 minutes is a fraction of a day, yet within it, Weber gleaned insights that would resonate for engineers, pilots, and historians alike. It is a lesson in the power of concentrated attention and disciplined inquiry, that even under constraints, remarkable understanding and progress are possible. The same principle applies beyond the cockpit, to science, business, creative endeavors, and personal challenges. When opportunity intersects with preparation and courage, the results can be extraordinary. Finally, the Corsair reminds us that human ingenuity thrives at the intersection of risk, necessity, and imagination. It is a story of minds working against impossible odds, of engineers taking bold leaps, of pilots translating design into action, and of a test pilot racing the clock to understand it all. The lessons are timeless. Innovation requires observation, experimentation, and daring. Breakthroughs are rarely isolated, but the product of cumulative insight and disciplined focus. And sometimes, the smallest window, the briefest altitude, or the shortest 45 minutes can illuminate possibilities that change everything. In the end, the Corsair is not just a machine. It is a celebration of what humans can achieve when they combine creativity, skill, and courage in pursuit of the extraordinary. August 14, 1944. A date that, at first glance, might seem like just another day in the endless catalogue of wartime history, was in fact a moment that illuminates the extraordinary intersection of human ingenuity and technological achievement. High above the jagged peaks of the Bavarian Alps, at 15,000 feet, a single captured F4U Corsair sat gleaming under the pale autumn sun. In its cockpit, Hans Weber, a top-tier German test pilot, had precisely 45 minutes to unlock the secrets of a plane that had already rewritten the rules of aerial combat. In that brief, intense window, the stage was set for a confrontation, not of bullets and bombs, but of intellect, observation, and understanding. It is a powerful reminder that, in history, some of the most decisive moments are not fought on the front lines, but in the minds of those who dare to question, examine, and innovate under pressure. Technology alone does not win wars. The Corsair's story demonstrates that raw power, speed, and design can only achieve their full potential when matched with the human mind's capacity to adapt, interpret, and execute. Weber, trained and experienced, approached the cockpit like a puzzle, his eyes scanning dials, controls, and moving surfaces, each detail a clue to understanding the mastery that American engineers and pilots had achieved. In the Pacific, young Marine pilots, some barely out of flight school, had harnessed the same machine to perform feats of bravery and precision that seemed almost superhuman. In Weber's hands, the plane became a living lesson in engineering, a tangible example of how design and human intuition must coexist to create results that are greater than the sum of their parts. The story reminds us that innovation is not measured solely by invention, but by the ability to recognize, analyze, and apply knowledge under pressure. 45 minutes may seem trivial, even fleeting, but within it lay a lifetime of insight and understanding. Weber traced the Corsair's engine response, felt the balance of its wings, tested the responsiveness of its ailerons, and observed how each component worked in harmony to create unmatched performance. In that compressed span of time, he glimpsed the genius behind its design, the invisible calculations and daring choices that allowed pilots to dive, climb, and turn in ways German engineers had struggled to replicate. It is a vivid example of how moments of urgency can spark extraordinary clarity. History often rewards those who act decisively within narrow windows, who are able to extract insight from complexity before opportunity vanishes. The Corsair, in Weber's hands, was both a test of skill and a testament to the transformative power of concentrated focus. The F4U Corsair was more than an aircraft. It was a symbol of human creativity, confronting limitations and defying expectation. Each mission flown, each maneuver executed, and each captured plane tested carried with it lessons that transcended the battlefield. The young pilots who flew it across the Pacific learned to trust it instinctively, transforming fear into precision, uncertainty into mastery. Weber, on the other side of the conflict, learned to respect it as a triumph of innovation, a mechanical embodiment of human curiosity and daring. In both perspectives, we see the timeless principle that technological advancement alone is insufficient without insight, courage, and the willingness to explore its full potential. Finally, this story resonates far beyond the cockpit or the year 1944. It reminds us that even in moments of immense pressure, when time is limited and stakes are impossibly high, human determination can illuminate possibilities that might otherwise remain hidden. The F4U Corsair, captured and scrutinized in a 45-minute encounter, stands as a metaphor for creativity, resilience, and the transformative power of human intellect. It challenges us to look the world around us with curiosity, to tackle problems boldly, and to recognize that the marriage of skill, innovation, and courage can create outcomes that reshape history. Even in the most desperate hours, Weber, the Corsair, and the fleeting window of insight they shared remind us that human ingenuity refuses to be grounded. It soars, unstoppable, across generations,